As an entrepreneur who's creating a company, whatever your product or service is, if that's not the most important thing and you're just dying and excited to tell people about it, then you're not going to succeed. You have to be insanely curious because the world is always changing. If you're not a voracious consumer of information, then you're not going to be able to keep up. And no matter what your sales skills or ability are, they're going to be useless.
How could I do it with a gimmick? How could I do it smartly? And that always gives you 10 times more bang for your buck.
Accounting and finance is the language of business. You have to understand that stuff.
Any goal that you have for your career, for your life, all you have to do is put your mind to it and then do all the smart things in which to make it happen.
No business has ever survived without sales. And as an entrepreneur who's creating a company, whatever your product or service is, if that's not the most important thing and you're just dying and excited to tell people about it, then you're not going to succeed.
But it's also a skill thing. How do you sell? What do you mean by selling?
Selling is just helping. I've always looked at it about putting myself in the shoes of another person and asking a simple question. Can I help this person? Can my product help them? From the time I was 12 years old, selling garbage bags door to door and just asking a simple question. Do you use garbage bags? Do you need garbage bags? Well, let me save you some time. I'll bring them to your house and drop them off. To, streaming. Why do we need streaming when we have TV and radio? Well, you can't get access to your TV and radio everywhere you go. So we kind of break down geographic and physical barriers and, cost plus drugs. What's the product that we actually sell? We sell trust. In a simplistic approach, we buy drugs and sell drugs, but we add transparency to it. And bringing transparency to an industry is a differentiation, and it helps people.
I had one listing because my old boss allowed me to have a listing in his building to rent. And I looked at it and I compared it to all the listings in the New York Times that listed everything. That day it was like street easy. And everybody advertised the same thing: 1 bedroom, 340, 1 bedroom, 330, Sunny 1 bedroom, 340, and on and on and on went the ads. So I went back to my old boss. I said, if you build a wall between the living room and the L and put a double frame door in there, we'll call it a 1 bedroom and den, and I'll get you $20 more a month. And I advertised $20 more a month, and the phone never stopped ringing. I ran that ad every single week for probably 5 years. I just kept getting another 1 bedroom and den to advertise. And he built those walls so fast because he got his $20 more a month. And that's called making more of something than you actually have, or positioning it smartly. And from that lesson, I learned to position everything smartly and to really examine any circumstance I was in and think, how could I do it differently? How could I do it with a gimmick? How could I do it smartly? And that always gives you 10 times more bang for your buck, which you need when you're starting a business because you're so poor, you don't have enough money to go around.
Totally. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's so important, though, for any size business.
Yes,
because
but especially when you're starving.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially when you're starving. But I think also some businesses, and I'm curious your perspective on this, when they start to get success, they might get a little lazy.
Yes, very much so.
And
or
so
they buy the help
Yes.
versus create their own solutions.
That's
Yes.
right. And they get lazy on that marketing and lazy on that creative positioning.
The biggest challenge for a small business in a small town is the same as a small business in a big town. Their inability and ignorance of accounting. And across the board, all the small businesses in Wabash told us, I don't like accounting and I don't like the numbers. Almost kind of like, I got to get somebody else to do it. If you don't know your numbers, you're going to go out of business. Nobody likes accounting. I don't like accounting. I don't even like my accountant. Super nice guy, but I don't really like him. I don't want to talk to him. But accounting and finance is the language of business. You have to understand that stuff. And then going back again to branding and marketing. Most people think that branding is your logo. Branding is your whole package in everything that a customer sees, feels, touches, and interacts with you on. The biggest challenge for a small business in a small town is the same as a small business in a big town, is being able to compete with large-scale competitors and at the same time staying relevant.
I would say go for your dreams, go to do whatever you want. There's nothing stopping you. I believe that if there is any goal that you have for your career, for your life, all you have to do is put your mind to it and then do all the smart things in which to make it happen. I don't know the word no. So I would say be fearless, be driven, be confident, and don't worry about what happens. Make it happen. Actually, I mean, I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, but I just think I always knew that I was an entrepreneur. I wanted to be independent. I didn't want to work for anybody else. I knew my personality type. I was very creative, and I just needed to find what it was I wanted to do. And I fell into it accidentally. I think what I hear people talk about that stops them often is a lack of confidence or a lack of or concern. They don't want to put in the time that it's going to take. So they'll say, well, I really wish I could do this, but they want someone else to do the work for them. That's not what I would tell people to do. I would say, you're probably not an entrepreneur. But I think anybody starting out, whether they want to be an entrepreneur or not, I think you really just have to figure out what it is you love. And then how can you do it? Because if you're doing what you love, you'll do well at it. And I don't know. My whole philosophy is you can make anything happen.
Okay, so what's the trick to selling garbage bags? Let's go back there. At 12 years old, is it just your natural charisma? I guess a good question to ask, are you born with it or can you develop it?
Oh, you can definitely develop it. Yeah, I mean, because selling garbage bags door to door was easy, right? Because like 12-year-old Mark going, hi, my name is Mark. Do you use garbage bags? You know what the answer is going to be, right? Can I just drop them off for you, once a week whenever you need them? You just call and I'll bring them down? Sure. So that was easy.
But I'm sure you've been rejected.
Oh, yeah, of course. Not everybody says yes.
What was your percentage?
I don't remember, but it's pretty close to 100%.
Oh, okay. Never mind. So that's why you don't remember.
Yeah, right. Because who's going to say no to a 12-year-old kid who's going to save them time and money? But, typically my career where I've started companies, it's to do something that other people aren't doing. Whether it was connecting PCs and to local area networks and at Micro Solutions, and the salesmanship was walking into a company and just saying, look, talk to me and I can help you improve your productivity and your profitability. Is that important to you? And the answer is obviously always yes. And then the question is, can I do the job and can I do it cost effectively? And so you didn't have to be a born salesperson to be able to ask those questions, but you have to be able to be willing to put in the time to learn that business. And that's the hardest part.
I'm sure there's a skill thing to it too, in like how you solve the puzzle of communicating with a person and convincing them.
Yeah, I mean, there's skill from the perspective that I read like a maniac. Then like now you can give me an example of any type of business and it'll take me 2 seconds to figure out how they make money and how I can make them more productive. And I think that's probably my biggest skill, being able to just drill down to what the actual need is, if any. And then, from there being able to say, well, if this is what this company does and this is what their goal is, how can I introduce something new that they haven't seen before? And is that a business that I can create and make money from?
So figure out how this kind of business makes money in the present, and then figure out, is there a way to make more money in the future by introducing a totally new kind of thing?
Correct.
And you can just do that with anything.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you think you're born with that?
No, I worked at it because, going back to what I said earlier about curiosity, you have to be insanely curious because the world is always changing. My dad used to say, we don't live in the world we were born into, which is absolutely true. If you're not a voracious consumer of information, then you're not going to be able to keep up. And no matter what your sales skills or ability are, they're going to be useless.